This is Judy L. Jones. Thank you very much for joining me today for another edition of In Conversation, a video series that I started hoping that you will be inspired to do better and be better by listening to and learning from the unique experiences of others. And today I have the pleasure of speaking with Mr. Kenny Copeland. And he's going to talk to us about how a song given to him by his wife literally saved his life. The video, while being entertaining, and you're going to laugh at it in certain spots of it, which is always good, hopefully will leave you understanding how to turn a very, very negative situation into a positive, inspiring, and uplifting one. I'll talk to you in a bit. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. As I said in my introduction, I am privileged to speak with today Mr. Kenny Copeland. He is going to give us some information, an inspirational story as how a song he and his wife never heard of before saved his life. So Ken, take us to, you were sick unfortunately with COVID.
Right.
All right. And prior to this incident, this hospital stay, you hadn't been sick before?
No.
Nothing.
No, actually, I was feeling sick like a week or 2 weeks before. But being a guy, we try to get through it. And I'd be like, it's just a regular cold.
Yeah.
But then, even when guys get colds, we're mad dramatic.
Right.
So I'm thinking like, let me drink some hot orange juice. I'll be all right. My grandmother gave me that remedy like years ago.
Right.
Knocked the cold right out.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right. But this time, I'm heating up the orange juice, and it's just tasting nasty. Like too sweet.
What?
I was like, oh nah, this is not gonna work. So now my wife's like, all right, let's get you some antibiotics, and I'm like, nah, because I don't take pills.
Right.
I don't like taking pills for nothing. If I got a pain, I would just go
work it out.
I'm not taking no Advil. No offense. Not taking no Aleve. No offense. I'm not taking none of it. So so the days went by. The cold was kind of like up and down. Then I was coughing, but then I started feeling sleepy. I was
lethargic.
Yes, I was extremely tired, and literally, I was saying I was going to take stuff to the storage, and I'd be passed out on the couch. So then she's like, "What in the world?"
What's going on?
And 2 days later, I'm like, "Yeah, something ain't right. Something's not right." So once again, I'm like, I'm probably just being fat and lazy because I'm out of shape. But I've gotten back. I'm getting back.
Getting back, y'all.
Literally, the next day, that same night, I'm feeling chills. Like I'm sleeping, but I'm like constantly shaking. So that's
the body's defense mechanism to try to break that fever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh wow! I didn't know. Look at that. I learned something.
That's the body's defense mechanism. So far, ladies and gentlemen, we're hearing that some of the symptoms that could potentially be COVID. All right. You're feeling a little achy. You're feeling a little lethargic. You have abnormal taste, like he says that the orange juice didn't have that same taste anymore. All right, and then the end was that he felt chills. Mm-hmm. All right, these are some symptoms that some people experience, but other people don't experience anything at all, and unfortunately are positive with COVID. Okay.
So, I was feeling chills, and we have like a nice king size bed.
Yeah. So
we have like these nice big old covers, and I'm under there, and I'm still
shaking.
So now I put my sweats on. I have a sweat, I have a hoodie on, and I'm still shaking under the bed. And it's boiling hot in my house. The dogs been mad. The dogs didn't want to be in the house. My kids is like, they too hot, but I'm the only one walking around, shivering. And every time I try to go to the bathroom, I'm like coughing, and I'm running out of breath. And so everybody's like, Kenny, I don't know. I don't think this is good. And mind you, we just had a newborn baby.
Right.
The baby's only been home about a week. Wow. And so I'm like, I don't want to be sick because I have 2 other boys. We have 3 boys total. And my boys are bad. My boys...
Boys will be boys.
And my son was just starting to go to the bathroom. My 3-year-old. He's the second oldest. And this particular night, this is the night that I went to the hospital. All right, I'm done.
Gotta go. Now I'm lethargic. I'm cold. I can't get warm. I got all these clothes. What is going on?
Mm-hmm. So my son, Kyrie, love him to death. His birthday is the day after mine. So he's like my little twin. He was just being extra. That entire day he was being extra. But it was just weird because I believe God did that because he was trying to get my attention.
Yes.
And literally, my son took his feces because he was starting to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
He put it on his face. And he comes in the room, and he's like, I went to the bathroom. And I look at his face, and I'm like, oh my goodness. So now my wife is like, oh my gosh, I can't take this no more. Oh my, you sick. He's doing this. And I'm like,
what's going on?
You know what? Let me remove myself from the equation. Because she tried to take care of me. Got this little spoiled brat putting poop on his face. And then, mind you, my Aunt Sybil, who you remind me of, by the way, my Aunt Sybil, she works in the hospital too.
Yeah.
She was just on the phone with me probably like 30 minutes before that. And she knows I love her to death. So I will always listen to her. She was like, Kitty, you gotta go to the hospital. I don't like your breathing. Get it. And I was like, okay, Auntie Sybil, all right. And because I was feeling dehydrated.
See, another symptom.
I felt like water just wasn't enough. I was telling people to find me a watermelon. Find me oranges.
To saturate your thirst.
Yes, and I was just dehydrated. It was crazy. My cousin went to the supermarket, got me some watermelon, and I was just like, I can't eat this. It tasted rotten, and it wasn't rotten.
Abnormal taste.
And so now I put that to the side, and that's the same day as earlier that day. So now I'm like, you know what? Let's call the ambulance. It's like probably 11:30 at night.
Wow. And
which was heartbreaking because both my the Kyrie was up and Cadence was up. Cadence is 6 years old. That's my oldest.
Right.
And he's a daddy's boy. Well, both of them are. You know, his team dad over there.
Yeah.
So, you know, the thing that crushed me is the fact that I didn't want them to see me walk out weak like that. Because they've never seen me weak.
Right.
Unless they're beating me up.
Right.
But they've never seen me weak. They've never seen me, you know, cower in any moment. And I didn't want them to see me walking into the ambulance. Let alone, my wife's seen everything. She seen me cry like a baby when I had to get my tooth pulled out. So she seen me cry before.
That, right.
You know, so I was like, all right, but I didn't want her to see me weak.
Right.
And I walked outside. This is my first time going outside. This is when it gets scary. The minute I opened the door, the wind hit me. I began to lose control of my breathing.
What?
I couldn't stop coughing. And I'm thinking I was good. And the police officers that came to help me down the steps backed up. They backed up. It was like, oh, nah. Like, they backed up. They didn't want to help me. So the other guy that worked in the ambulance, he walked up to me and said, I got you. We're going to get through this.
Right.
Puts me in. Mind you, I'm like,
can't breathe.
I can't even say thank you.
Labored.
Couldn't do anything. So now they got me, they put the mask over my face. They got me breathing through the oxygen, and that still wasn't really working. It calmed me down a little because I didn't feel that cold wind anymore.
Right.
So, mind you, so I was already feeling cold, and then feel that cold wind again. It was just crazy. So we get to the hospital. They have me in a room, and I forgot. I actually went to go see if I had COVID 3 days before that at a different hospital, and they just told me to go home and just
chill out.
Just chill out, quarantine, not realizing this thing was getting worse.
Yes.
It was getting worse.
Yes.
So, you know, I'm in there. You know, they're taking my insurance. They ask me all types of questions.
Right.
And I was just getting annoyed. I was like, I don't want to be here because I don't like hospitals. You know, and it's the same hospital. I lost my godmother. She passed away in that hospital. My grandparents, they were both in that hospital plenty of times. But it was real detrimental to me because my godmother just passed in that hospital.
Right.
So I was like, I definitely don't want to be here. So literally, they get me in this room. The room looked real scary, like one of those like mental patients.
Right.
It was all silver, and it was scary. And I was like, what the heck? You know,
what's going on?
This is what they do to COVID patients? You know, so I'm going through the thing, and most people who know me, like, my mind is crazy. I'll be like, I can have a conversation with you. I can be thinking about something completely different. And they're asking me all these questions. What you're allergic to? I'm not allergic to anything. I don't smoke, don't drink. Don't have bad habits besides eating fried chicken. And that's not a bad habit.
No,
you know,
it's not.
I love me some fried chicken.
How you cook it.
Right. We have an air fryer now. It tastes amazing.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, and as long as you got the Red Devil hot sauce, you're good to go. But, so you see my mind went, well, red chicken. But, yeah, so I'm in the room. The doctor comes and he's like, oh, I see that you have a risk. Because I never took the, what's the bracelet they give you when you go to the hospital when they take you in?
That's your name band.
Okay, my name band. So I had the name band on from the other hospital. And he was like, I see that you went already. And I was like, yeah. He said, how did they let you go home? He said, you can't even breathe. Like, I don't know where your breathing's supposed to be at. But whatever number, I think instead of a 92, I was like around like the 80,
yeah,
whatever.
That's not good. He probably had an O2 saturation device on one of his fingers, ladies and gentlemen. And that will determine how well you're breathing. how much oxygen you're getting in your lungs. And ideally, it should be above 95%. Ideally, it should be 100%. Okay, and if you continually drop below 90, 80s, then we got something to work on. We got something to think about.
Right, and that's exactly where I was at. I was in the 80s. He said, all right, we're going to get you into a room right now. I'm going to start working on you right now. So now I'm getting scared. At first I was just like, I'll just get through it. It's probably going to give me some medicines because I haven't really educated myself on COVID.
Right.
You know, I was so busy worrying about the politics, even though it had a lot to do with it. But I was so busy paying attention to what Trump was doing.
Right.
Black Lives Matters. I was everything. You name it. But I was never really educating myself on the disease.
Right.
I was like, at first, when I first heard about it, I was like, oh man, I had a headache before. So that means I got...
Everybody had that. Everybody had that, thinking that this symptom could equal that symptom, this could do that. And maybe I had COVID in the past and it wasn't really diagnosed. So when this whole thing started a year ago, we all went through those type of phases, wondering if we had it or not.
Right. And that's what I was going through. So now I'm in the room. They have me like in this metal room by myself. It's dark. And I'm in there by myself. A little old lady came in there. She happens to be a believer. You know, she's a Christian woman.
Right.
And she's like, are you okay? And it was so funny how it was worked out that way because a lot of people that know me know I love older people.
Right.
Like I will, if you're an older person and if I've met you before, I've probably taken out your garbage, picked up your groceries. Like that's something that I do and I never brag about it.
Right.
You know, so it was what a coincidence. And I don't tell people what I do, but what a coincidence. A nice old lady came in there and she's the one helping me set up. She was the one fixing me in, you know, getting me, you know, and literally that same night, they were trying, you know, I guess they was going to get me set up for some type of treatment.
Right.
Having in all these wires, tubes, whatever you want to call it, I can't see anything. And I'm saying to myself, like, I really don't feel like Kenny. This has never happened to me.
Something is off.
Yeah.
Something is off.
It's never happened to me. I've been sick, but I've never had to be in the hospital.
Right.
You know? And so I'm in there, and she gets me set up. So I'm trying to fall asleep, but I kept tossing and turning. And I said, because when I had it, I couldn't just lay on my side. I couldn't lay on my back because I couldn't breathe. So I would lay on my stomach. So I asked her, can I lay on my stomach? She said, all right, it's not normal, but I'll allow you to lay on your stomach if it makes you comfortable.
Right.
So she did that. She left. It had to be probably like around this time, like 3 o'clock in the morning. I was tossing and turning, and all the wires that they give you end up going around my neck.
Right.
So I'm like tossing and turning, and now I'm like choking myself to death. And I'm thinking I'm dying at this point, which is a little funny because I laugh at everything, right? So in my head, I'm like, oh my gosh, is this how it ends?
Is this it?
Because I'm asking for help. The button was on the left side, but I'm reaching on the right side. Shows you that I didn't pay attention. I'm supposed to be pressing the button on the left side, but I'm pressing on the right, like, trying to call the nurse for need because I need help. And literally, in that moment, I'm sweating like crazy. Didn't realize how much I was sweating.
That's how much the body is trying to defend him, trying to help you fight this mess.
Yep. And she gave me 2 ice packs, and they melted. They melted, and then so when she came back in, she's like, "Oh my gosh, you could have died."
Yes.
She's like, "Why didn't you say it?" And I was just like, I'm like, I was reaching for it. She's like, "No, the button's over here." Mind you, the window was open, but I felt hot.
Feverish, people.
Yes.
Feverish.
So after that night, they decided to bring me up because they was like, okay, he started making somewhat progress because he sweated it out. So I guess it was like, oh, he's getting better.
Right.
So now they bring me to the 3rd floor. All the nurses are out there. Hey, Mr. Copeland. So I'm like, how do these people know me? You're like, what's going on?
What's happening?
So I'm like, I'm not really speaking. I'm just nodding my head and whatever because I couldn't still, really talk that much because I felt every time I would talk, I would start coughing.
Right.
And literally, I get in the room. I'm gonna speed it up because it's been, I don't want to take your time. But I get in the room, and the next day, they was trying to get me food. I still was not trying to eat food.
Normal taste, not hungry.
I would not eat food. I drunk I was probably drinking some water, not a lot.
Right.
And I noticed that when they were bringing me, my room was all the way in the back, so I'm nosy, and I could see everything. I noticed I seen a lot of older people in the hospital. And so I was like, dang, I'm probably the youngest one in here. So when the nurse comes in, she confirms, you are youngest patient. And so I'm like, okay, dang. So I'm like, I'm over it. Dang, I'll be okay.
Yeah.
So now my confidence is starting to get up a little bit.
So at this point, Kenny, you were in the hospital. You were in a bed. They had you with different types of tubes. You had the nasal cannula in, the O2 saturation on one of your fingers, right? Any other equipment that you can remember that you had? Just those two biggies?
That, and then every once in a while when I would try to walk, they would put something in my nose to make me breathe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like a medicine, like a treatment?
Yeah, but if I had tubes in, I wouldn't remember because remember, I had passed out that first night.
Okay.
So I wouldn't remember if they had the tubes all the way deep down inside. But I remember the nurse saying, I had some tubes, but I'm not really sure because I don't remember.
Right.
I passed out.
So your breathing at this point was getting more and more labored.
Yep.
Now I've heard stories from people who have literally had COVID and thank God have come out of it. They're saying that it felt like they were under this mud, like they were trying to swim upwards because they literally could not breathe.
Yeah.
And it's very, very claustrophobic. It's very, very anxiety producing. It's very, very frustrating when you cannot breathe. And the whole idea, the doctor's job is try to get you to breathe. So most of them put a breathing tube down. Some people are on ventilators. That's why in the beginning of this whole mess, ventilators were so very, very, very important. Okay, but you didn't have to do a ventilator. You were strictly on the nasal cannula and the O2 saturation on your finger.
Right, and the doctor said he didn't want to do all of that. He said I was young. He said, you seem pretty strong. So he said, let's try to work through process. He said he didn't want to do that. He said he had a lot of bad experiences with it.
Correct.
So, and I was actually happy that he was extremely honest about that.
Right.
But this doctor was a little bit too honest, and I'm gonna tell you why I said that. Because that same day, I guess my breathing started to decline again. And I'm hearing, and once again, I'm nosy, so I'm hearing the nurses at the door. They're like, he's not doing good. He's getting worse. And this is not good. Like, we brought him up here thinking he was progressing, but now he's not. He's declining. Like, his breathing's getting worse and worse and worse. He's not eating food. His body's not responding to the antibiotics that we're giving him. And I'm like, why would they be saying this at the door?
So you're hearing all of this.
Yeah, so now in my mental, I'm like, I'm dying. The doctor comes in the same day, comes in the room. He's like, hey, I'm not going to ask you how you're doing. He said, but I'm extremely worried. He said, I'm extremely worried, but we're not giving it up. He said, however, I think we do need to start planning for your final decisions. So we need to call your wife. Now, mind you, my wife is home with my newborn baby, my other two sons, and we just got the baby home. She's by herself. So I told the doctor, I said, I'm not dead yet. Like, something in me responded to him, I'm not dead yet.
And you were able to speak.
A little bit.
A little bit.
It wasn't strong. It wasn't as
like,
strong.
It was like a whisper. Like,
yeah.
It was like a hoarseness, like a whispering, but he was able to understand you.
Yep.
Okay.
He saw my face expression because I am very strong-willed. Like, my will is very strong. Like, whenever I'm determined to do something, I get it done.
Yeah, I'm like that too.
So I looked at him and I was like, I'm not dead yet. So he was like, all right. Because I'm not going to call my wife and tell her, they said I need to start planning my final decisions. With a newborn baby, two other boys, and I got 2 dogs. That wouldn't work.
No, she would have been in a panic.
Right? And so obviously she had COVID as well, but she didn't have the same symptoms that I did.
Okay, so she had it first.
No, I gave it to her.
Oh, okay, right.
I gave it to her.
Okay.
So she's going through her symptoms. Well, she was feeling, I think she was saying like nauseous or whatever she was, I forgot. But she was like feeling somewhat, she wasn't feeling her best.
Herself.
And she was trying to nurse the baby.
Oh, wow.
And whatever. So it was crazy. So I'm going through all of these things. Now my sister, Doria, my older sister, she is extremely nosy. But she's also works in the hospital field as well.
Okay.
And she was talking to her nurse friends and everybody, and they was like, well, now what's the name of the medicine? It's called Remdesivir or Rosavir?
Well, it's I think it's Remdesivir.
There it is, Remdesivir.
Remdesivir.
So she was telling me that when I told her that's what they had, she heard the nurse say that they was giving that to me. So someone told her that when they do that, it's like almost like a last resort. They're trying to find something to help. And she began to panic. So now she's praying. Now, I have 5 sisters. And my 2 older sisters, I've been torturing them for years. And they finally got a chance, like, we was talking every day. If I was talking to anybody more than anything, was my sisters. My second oldest, my sister Lanita, she's happened to be right above me. Me and her always been enemies. She's talking to me every day. And the fact that she was actually showing that she cared about me, I was like, okay, this is not good. I'm like, this is not good. And then even my sister told me, she said she got that day I spoke to her, and she said how I sounded so weak. I didn't crack any jokes. I didn't call her a roach. I didn't call her names. And it bothered her because I'm always picking on her. Even though I'm the younger brother, but I'm always... And she wasn't, so she gets off the phone, she starts crying. My older sister's crying, but they're not letting me know that they're crying. And then my mom, I'm a mama's boy, so people who know me know I'm a mama's boy. I end up, so it was so bad, my mom caught COVID because I had it. Because I was just at the house probably like 2 days before that.
Right.
So now my mom was also in the hospital battling with my lungs were messed up too.
Yes.
I had a pneumonia.
Scarring, yes.
Yes, they said I had a pneumonia in both of my lungs.
Yes, that's one of the hallmarks of COVID.
Right. I had a pneumonia in both my lungs, and my mom also had it. She had a pneumonia in her lungs. So we was both in the hospital at the same time. My mom, I'm her favorite child. And I'm not saying that because my mother's told me. I'm her baby. I have a younger sibling, but I'm the baby. And it was just messing her up. She couldn't hear me. Like, no one's used to hear me on the phone, not having any bass in my voice, cracking a joke, or just being confident.
Right.
And when she heard how weak I sound, my mom couldn't even talk to me. She stayed on the phone like 30 seconds. And I heard her crying. And she didn't want me to hear her crying, but I heard her.
So everybody, this was like the latter part of 2020, November, December 2020.
Yep.
Right. So we were what, 6, 7, 8 months into COVID. We're still not horrifically understanding what's going on with it, but we're trying to get to the root of it in terms of medications, in terms of antibiotics, in terms of treatments, and the people who sit at the big desks and the smart people of the universe, they're trying to come up with a vaccine at this point. So everybody's working and scratching to try to get some things done.
Right.
But you're still in the thick of this because now it's happening to you. All right. And now we're at the latter part of 2020, November, December 2020.
Right.
So at what point in your stay was it like really bad? Like, oh my goodness, this could be it for me.
Yeah, so it got to that point when well, it sounds kind of funny. My sister called my cousin Ruth. My cousin Ruth happens to be, I think she's 100 years old or 98. Don't get me wrong, cousin Ruth. She's one of those. I think she's like 98 or 100. If she's 92, forgive me, but I think she's like 98 or 100. And my sister calls her to let her know what's going on, and so now my cousin Ruth is praying for me, and my sister's crying hysterically on the phone. My older sister Doria was crying, and I'm sitting there now I'm like, I'm really about to die because she's crying on the phone, going crazy. And I didn't. All this is going on, and I didn't want to tell my wife because I didn't need her to panic.
Right.
She's holding everything down at the house. I didn't need her panicking.
So nobody was that was excellent in the sense that nobody, your sisters, did not call your wife to give her a hint as to what was going on.
Yeah, they did very well.
Wow.
I have amazing sisters. This is the last time I've ever said. I have amazing sisters. Doria and Lanita are amazing. Like, they pretty much kept me going. I believe I wasn't talking to them every day, I'd have gave up. And I think when you have COVID, I've heard a lot of people say they think their parents gave up. They think their friends, because it makes you so tired.
Yes.
And like, I even said to myself the first night that I got there, when I was going through everything and I passed out, I said, really, God, it's going to end like this? It's going to end like this? All my dreams, all my goals that I have yet to accomplish before that moment, I was like, saying to myself, this is why it's important to do what you're supposed to do. Do what you're meant to do. Like, never take life for granted. And in that moment, even though I passed out later on, I thought I died. And I woke up, this old lady's like shoving me and whatever. So here's when it gets real crazy. The people that were coming in after me, remember I told you there was a lot of older patients there?
Right.
They were dying. And I'm hearing death all around my head. Because when they send that sound off, code, what is it, code 9?
Yeah.
Whatever it's
code
called.
blue.
Code blue, there it is. And I'm hearing it, and my roommate, he was an older guy. He was having the same symptoms that I was having, and they were talking about sending him home. And all we hearing is death all around us, all around. So now I'm getting more discouraged. I'm like, man, this is not good. I wonder when it's going to be my turn. And so now I'm on my phone because I'm feeling like I'm never going to be able to see my family again. Because, they don't let your family.
No, at this point, no.
So I get my phone. My phone with battery was probably like on like 30% because remember I didn't charge it.
Right.
And I'm looking on my Facebook and I'm looking at my pictures. I have a lot of videos of me and my sons dancing, singing, you name it. And I'm looking through all these pictures. And Facebook got a way of bringing up old memories.
Yes, they do.
And I'm like, wow, Earth. They would wait to show all my, me and my boys, my friends, my families. And one of the things that was great for me around that time, remember, is around Thanksgiving.
Right.
So we had planned, we did a huge Thanksgiving dinner with my wife's family and my side of the family. For the first time, we brought everybody together. And we rented out a Airbnb. It was amazing. So that came up, and I'm looking at all the videos. So now your boy is really crying. I'm emotional. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm never going to see these people again.
So at what point did you hear from your wife? And her name again is
Lakeisha.
Lakeisha. What point did you hear from Lakeisha?
So she would text me like, hey babe, what's going on? I'm just checking on you.
She had no idea at this
and
point.
I didn't want to tell her. Me being me, I was like, oh, everything's good. You know, my voice is like, yeah. And then I would take off my the oxygen thing,
right,
so I can talk to her, so she wouldn't see me like that. And I would get in trouble. Nurses come like, you can't take that off. Put that on. So whenever I hear them about to come, I would be like, all right, I gotta go. You know. But the lady would come in, you gotta keep that on. Keep it on. You cannot take that off, sir. You gotta listen. This is the 5th time you did that. Mind you, she doesn't understand. There's so many people calling me. I have bishops, pastors, people are calling me from the woodworks. And the more people that call me that was like important people in my life, I'm like, dang, because you know
what's happening.
You know, everybody wants to be like, yeah, I was the last person to talk to him, and you know, right before he went, he told me, you know, you know how it goes.
Yes,
you know, black folks.
Yes.
I was the last, his last words. He told me, he wanted me to take care of his boy. Like, you know, he had some money under, you know. So people were scaring me. The more that they called me, I was like, Jesus Christ.
On?
You know, and then so people that there were some people that was calling me, I didn't pick up because I didn't have the strength to. And so now my wife, and this is like probably like the 3rd or 4th day, she's called, you know, to see how I'm doing, and I wanted, for some reason, I was like, I need to talk to her parents and things like that, because me and her mom are very close, and her dad, we're very close. We have a great relationship. And I'm like, her father always says, I'm the son he never had.
Right.
So I felt like I owed them their last moment, you know, because her mom is extremely sensitive. My mother-in-law and my mom are so much like, it's not even funny.
Right.
So I was like, I owe them this last moment with me. So I called them on Facebook and on the video chat, because she always picks up.
Right.
And she's like, hey. She knows I'm not hungry. She's like, oh, okay. You don't look yourself. But we're praying for you. And I'm going through all of this, and I'm not telling people what's really going on,
happening,
because I don't want them to get sad. I'd rather everything's happening all at once, like bam.
Yeah. I
don't want them to be preparing themselves like, he about to die, Lord.
And then it's a whole negative thing around. You want to stay positive. You want to stay prayed up.
Right. And my father-in-law, his sister passed from COVID.
Right.
She had just passed from COVID.
Right.
So now his son that he never had, you know, I'm his favorite son-in-law. Sorry, Boyan. But he's like, now he's feeling, he said he was a little nervous, because he said, I didn't look myself, but my father-in-law, he said he's a thinker. He's not the type of person that's going to say everything.
Right.
But he'll be sitting there looking like that something's not right. Even my dad, I'm a daddy's boy. So my father couldn't talk to me just like my mom. He's not used to seeing his boy, his strong one,
right,
you know, the way he was. So my dad, he couldn't talk to me because he was crying. I don't like seeing my dad cry, because it'll make me cry.
Make you cry.
So we don't like to cry. So, but like I said, my father-in-law, he's looking. So I'm talking with them, going through the whole motion, making them feel good, because they talking about they moving to Virginia. And I'm like, yeah, you guys are going to be great. So when I start coughing, now they're like, oh man, like what's going on?
What's happening?
Like, so I'm like, yeah, I don't got that much strength. Or whatever. They're like, yeah, but you're going to get better. We praying for you. We love you, son. I was like, I love you guys too. And so now I'm like, I'm trying to hurry and get off the phone, because I don't want them to see me in my moment, because I took the oxygen off again. And the nurse came right back. So I didn't want to get in trouble. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to go. So my mother-in-law, she's like, oh my gosh. She's crying a little bit, because she's like, I'm not used to seeing you like this. She's like, my Kenny, I'm not used to seeing you like this. I was like, yeah, but we're going to be all right. You guys are going to be, but I said, you guys are going to be all right. You guys are going to be all right. And I don't know why I said that, because I didn't even have life insurance during that time. It's crazy. I got life insurance now. But, so, you know, I get off the phone with them, and that's when the doctor was telling me to plan my final decisions and things like that. So now I'm crying, and I'm telling God, like, I didn't think it would end like this. You know, I thought I thought you had something in store for me. And that's the first time I've ever really questioned God like that. The one time I did question when my grandmother passed, that was my heart and soul, my Aunt Letha. All my pillars of the family were just leaving. And I was like, why would you can't think, some people going to live forever. But we did, you know.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, as
I
a
grew
child,
up-
you do think that.
Yeah, I grew up thinking my nana could kick down a bathroom door
Right.
until I was like in my late 20s.
Right.
You know, she be banging like, I'm gonna kick this door down. And I thought she could do it.
Right.
Until one day I looked at her, I was like, you're like 4'3". When you kicking? I said, how I'd have known in the 90s that you was gonna be this little, I'd have been like, I'll listen to you. You know? So, you know, I went through that whole depression stage and I'm like, dang, I didn't get a chance to do what they said they saw me doing when I got older.
Right.
So now, here it is. I want to tell my wife, but I don't tell her. Now, we're so connected. She was on my mind heavy. She ends up sending me something on Facebook, and she says, babe, I came across this song. I think it's perfect for you. Because she did know about my breathing. She knew my breathing was terrible. Because my sister was screaming on the phone, your breathing is loud. You know, so she knew about my breathing a little bit. My sister would tell her just enough not to get her scared.
Right.
So she knew about the breathing, but she was, you know, in her mind, it's getting better. She sends me a song, and the name of the song is You Give Life.
But the thing is, though, ladies and gentlemen, is that neither Kenny nor Lakeisha, they never heard this song before.
Never heard it.
And they're worshipers and they're church people, and they never heard this song before. So it's just like a divine intervention that this particular song came into being.
Right.
Right? And your wife sent it to you on Facebook.
She sent it to me on Facebook.
She happened to be going through Facebook, happened to be going through a playlist, maybe
whatever she was
Pandora or
doing.
something like that.
Pandora, it could have been something because she does that. She'll listen to Pandora, she'll write the name of the song down, and then she'll find it on YouTube. Because she'll sing a song in a minute.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's what she probably did. Because, you know, you don't see that on your timeline with people posting like videos because no one was talking about that song before we started singing it. I haven't heard anybody.
Right, and I've never heard of it until he played it for me before we shot the video.
And I'm not saying I'm the one that discovered it, but all my friends, I have never heard any of them or seen them post anything like it. And the name of the song is Great Are You, Lord. And I began to listen to it. And while the song was playing, the first thing the song was saying, you are love, you are life. You bring light to the darkness. And I'm listening to the song and I'm like, this is good. I like the way it's going. I'm still sick. I'm still feeling, you know, down. I didn't even eat. I'm dehydrated and everything. And I'm just getting into it. And I close my eyes. But the minute he started singing, it's your breath in our lungs. So we pour out our praises. And I began to start singing. I was like, yes, it's your breath. Like in my lungs. And it was saying our, but Kenny made it personal, and I was saying, in my lungs. And and mind you, I'm laying on my back. And when you lay on your back, you really can't breathe that great.
Right.
So, and because when I went upstairs, they wouldn't let me lay on my stomach. So I was just dealing with it. But for the first time, I was able to lift my hands while singing the song. And I was whispering the words at first. And then probably like a couple of seconds into me whispering, my vocal cords became strong. And I began to sing it. It's your breath. And I began to like just let it go. In our lungs. And I'm just singing. And I'm singing. And then the nurses come in and they're like, oh my God, he can sing. He can sing. And for the first time, it's like, I knew what was going on around me, but I felt like I wasn't there.
Right. Out of body experiences. And we've had some of those, folks.
Yeah. I felt like I wasn't there, but I heard them. They're looking at me. They're like trying to make sure I don't fall. And my hands are lifted up because now I done sat up. I'm singing, and I have a strong voice. So I know a lot of people heard me, but I didn't care. The tears are coming down my eyes. The snot's coming through my nose.
Worshiping.
I'm worshiping God in the most purest form, you know? Like, for years and years, when you grow up as a kid in church, you hear your aunts, your uncles, or older people in church, and they have testimonies about how God healed them and how he delivered them. I've never really had that experience. You know, I'm 33 years old, and I'm never. Now, God brought me through a lot of different things. You know, I wasn't an angel growing up, but I've never had that type of experience where God actually healed me, my body, and having that type of experience, like I said to myself, like this is what it feels like. You know, I no longer had to look to see what Nana would talk about, what my mom been through, what my dad's been through. Kenny had a testimony for the first time for himself.
And a song that they've never heard before has made this connection.
Yes.
Has made this connection. And from that, you started singing the song a little bit, and you felt your lungs, you felt your voice getting stronger, Kenny,
Yes.
while you were singing the song.
Yes.
And you were sitting up in bed at this point.
Yes. Ty Goldberg he's the GOAT. Like, I listen to all his songs now. And I've always listened to him, but I've never heard him sing that song, which is so funny.
What?
Because I'm always on YouTube watching how he worships. You know, because because I'm a worshiper, you know, I don't idolize anybody, but sometimes I like to look at see what songs people are doing.
Right.
Just to, you know, start doing the songs.
Right.
And his style fits me. So I've been watching a lot of his things. I have a bunch of them. Fred Hammond, that's my guy.
Yeah.
Fred Hammond. But for the first time, I listened to Fred Hammond. I listened to Myron Williams. I listened to Jonathan McReynolds or Jonathan Nelson. I literally was just... Jason Nelson, I'm sorry. And I literally was just listening to Todd that late at night. And by the morning, I was singing. The wee hours in the morning, I'm singing. And I said like about 7 o'clock that morning, I began to jump. I got on my feet.
And punching.
I'm doing shadow boxing.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, now Kenny went from hoarseness, can't breathe, nasal cannula, saturation devices on his fingers, laying on his back, lethargic, and his wife just happens to send him this particular song, the song she's never heard of before, and while he's singing it, he becomes better, more inspired. You're punching. Are you out of the bed at this point?
Oh yeah, I'm standing up. And the doctor, he literally was coming in that morning, and I scared him because you know they got the curtain over it.
Right, this is the same doctor who told
yes.
you to make your final plans.
Yes, he was not expecting me to see me going like this, because I'm a fighter. You know, my friends will tell you like, "Yo, Kenny's a fighter." Like that's one thing I grew up. I'm not proud of it, but I'm in the window, shadow boxing, and he cursed. He was like, "Oh my, what are you doing?" And then the nurse, they came in and they was like, "We were so sorry. We were so caught up with what he was doing last night. We didn't put anything in our notes." Because, you know, they take the notes before they come in there.
Yeah.
And then he was like, "You're a miracle." He said, I came in here expecting him to say, "We're going to take you out this room. We're going to bring you back downstairs." He was like, "This is..." And I said, "Listen, you don't know the God that I serve."
Right. And it just goes to show people how, yes, traditional medicine does play an extraordinary role in us getting treated for certain kind of diseases. But sometimes miracles do happen. Things that we cannot explain do happen. Mm-hmm. And there are certain doctors who can make attest to this. And this particular doctor now is going to be able to say, listen, mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I had a patient who I thought was literally going to be dying from COVID. I come in the room, and now he's shadow boxing, and his voice. So were you talking at this point?
Yep.
Like you're talking right now?
I was talking regular. They could not believe it. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. And only thing, my mind just kept going back to, like, I said to myself, because my goal was always to start my own company. But, you know, working, you know, I don't want to say the name of the job because, you know, I want them to get offended.
Okay, don't get offended. Okay.
You know, but they take up so much of your time, it doesn't avail you, like, it doesn't give you the availability to do something for yourself.
Correct.
And I'm a firm believer in my hands can do a lot of things. And I'm very well connected. And going through that experience, God literally just tells me, it's time for you to start something for yourself. Don't wait till your late 40s. And I'm not, and this is no shade on anybody. It doesn't matter what age you get started. But for me, this is what God told me to do.
So in every experience, there is something to learn from it. Right. This was a negative experience starting out, and it turned into something positive because it went from, he was redirected into fermenting and cementing the goals he had set out. You had set out for yourself. Now You're putting them into fruition based on this one experience. Right. And it's so amazing to me that how your wife at home with 3 boys, a newborn, and she's thinking about you because you guys, like you said, you guys are really connected. Yeah. And she saw this song. She said, well, maybe let me send this to Kenny. Let me see. Mm-hmm. And this was it. Thank you very much for joining me today for this edition of In Conversation. A very powerful, positive, and inspiring story we heard today. You can hear some of the song in the background by Todd Goldberg. Great are you, Lord. But the lyrics goes as such. You give me life. You are love. You bring light to the darkness. You give me hope. You restore every heart that is broken. Great are you, Lord. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. A photograph, a song, a memory, a person can reinvigorate life and bring you from the brink of death to something positive and alive and breathing. Such was the situation with Lakeisha and Kenny. Lakeisha heard this song, a song she never heard before, and something said, "Send it to my husband." And Kenny heard it. And as you heard in the story, he felt invigorated. His voice returned. God's breath in his lungs. Great Are You, Lord by Todd Goldberg. Thank you so much for joining me today. And in the words of Octavia E. Butler, all that you touch, you change. And all that you change, changes you. I'll see you on the next video.